Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, no matter where you are in the world. It's still a beautiful day. Welcome to another broadcast of Win with Willie Leadership Talk Show. I always start out with what? 2022, the year of no excuses. You and I must inspire until we expire. Thank you for joining me. So wake up. I hope you had your coffee if you're on the West Coast. If you're in Europe somewhere, if you're in the Middle East, you probably having your dinner. But I want to thank you for joining me today. What we do not see, what most of us never suspect of existing, is a silent but irresistible power which comes to the rescue of those who fight on in the face of discouragement. And that's by Napoleon Hill. I love that quote because we all have faced some level of discouragement. We all have that silent, irresistible power. Win with Willie Talk Show is about encouraging us to fight on, to grow on, reaching our fullest God-given potential and becoming the best version of ourselves. The best gift we can give our family, our community, and our organization is the best version of ourselves. And how do we become the best version of ourselves? That is a great question, and I'm glad that you asked. We must first learn to lead ourselves, because you and I cannot give what we do not have. And today, I have a person on the show that's been giving and giving and giving and been leading herself quite well. Today, I have the pleasure of having Andrea Patrick, an entrepreneur. Now, let me say that, an entrepreneur. This young person, this awesome person is doing some amazing things. Before she started pouring into us, allow me to read her bio. When it comes to confronting new opportunities, delegating tasks, and packaging your genius to drive profitability, Andrea Patrick should be your first call. Don't call Jeff Willie, call Andrea Patrick. She should be your first call. These types of leaders take their business to the next level because they are inspired people. She's using my word, inspired people who inspire people. That's Andrea. If you're ready to be this type of leader, she's standing by to help you unleash the inner CEO. Andrea Patrick is a seasoned entrepreneur who is known for her mastery in cultivating powerful leaders, increasing revenue, quickly identifying unprofitable revenues, and creating a seamless infrastructure to all of that she talked about above. When you need professional development to leave an amazing, unforgettable impression, or you need your business to convey clear, consistent, and attractive messages, Andrea expertise has got you covered. I love the way she said it, has got you covered. Her background includes marketing degree, cosmetology license, wardrobe and fashion styling, and years of experience in putting it all together to develop authentic brand experiences for both people and businesses alike. Andrea's product and services has generated millions in revenue. I love that number, millions in revenue, and saved thousands of dollars from wasteful operation and expenses. Hey, I need your help. And created meaningful outcomes for businesses and their leaders, teams, and customers. She has many services and products, including 2 books, Be the Brand, a new and organic approach to personal branding, and Business to Business, B2B Business Journal, a podcast, The CEO Mindset, a YouTube channel. Andrea Patrick officially will be launching a signature program very, very soon. Andrea believes to be an efficient, effective, and inspired leader, one must commit to constantly involving and being open to failing forward. I have that book, matter of fact, Failing Forward. She shares these beliefs, insights, tips, and tricks on her podcast and all major podcast platforms. But listen to her motto: boss up, stop spinning your wheels with mediocre leadership system, unleash the inner CEO, and a book and a complimentary discovery called Today. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, to get real and be the real you. Andrea, say hello to my audience.
Hello, everyone. How are you all?
I
Willie,
think
thank you so Mr. Jeff, thank you for having me here on the show.
absolutely. How long I've been waiting to get you on my show? Has it been
I know.
5 years, 10 years,
I
10
know.
years?
Listen, I was gonna say, charge it to my head and not my heart. It's
All right.
not intentional.
Not intentional. Yes. I have been on Andrea's
I was
show.
gonna say, especially since you were a great guest on my show, I should have
Absolutely.
reciprocated a little faster than this. But we did have a little small situation in a pandemic that sort of kept us from getting around to it.
So, in other words, we learned to stay home.
We did.
That was not a very difficult lesson for some
That
of
was
us, but it was
not. It
difficult for
wasn't.
others. But for you and I, it was an easy
Had
lesson for
no
us to
trouble.
learn.
No trouble.
Well, absolutely. It's an honor having you on the show on
Well,
this
thank you. It's an honor
beautiful
to be
Wednesday
here.
day here in the
Yes.
Dallas Fort Worth area. Well, kind of lighten your load a little bit. I would just for you to kind of share with the audience something interesting about you, some interesting fact. I did get one thing about you. You didn't grow up in Texas. I think I heard you grew up in this place called NC. Us folks from Texas call it North Kakalaki. But what do you call
Yes.
it, being from
North
North Carolina?
Kakalaki works fine for me. I call it that too. Yes, I am from North Carolina. I was born in Chapel Hill, raised in Burlington, college in Greensboro. I'm actually a proud alumni of North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. So I'm an Aggie too, just a North
Okay,
Carolina
all right.
Aggie. Yes, yes. And very, very proud to be an alumni.
Well,
Yeah.
North Carolina A&T is one of the most prominent HBCUs in the country.
North Carolina A&T is the largest African American HBCU in the country.
Ab-
Yes, we've had
Absolutely.
presidents and first ladies and entertainers and presidential candidates and astronauts and all kinds of things that come from A&T and me. So
Well, absolutely. So you're saying I'm interviewing royalty and my audience is
you're
listening to
interviewing.
royalty.
I'll say this: you're interviewing legacy.
Okay, a
Leg-
legacy. You got that, ladies and gentlemen. We're interviewing a legacy. I feel honored, ma'am. Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, besides being from North Carolina, the great city of Chapel Hill and the great state of North Carolina, tell my audience something else interesting about you.
Well, I'll tell you something that is very interesting. They probably won't believe it, but I have a set of twins that were born 5 days apart. And they contribute heavily to the reason that I am in business today.
So, twins born 5 days apart, and they still considered twins.
They are. They were twins. They just came out separately.
Okay,
But
five
yes,
days.
sir.
Well, now do you have this I'm older than you type situation with these twins every now and then? I'm older than you. You're younger than me. You're my little brother. You're my big brother.
No, they get along quite nicely.
Okay.
I have the oldest is about to graduate from college, and her twin is home with us. She has special needs,
Okay.
and but she's the life of the house and runs it pretty much.
Absolutely. Absolutely wonderful. Well, I would have, when you said that graduating college, let me take off my glasses here, make sure that I don't need to adjust my lenses.
Yes, sir. We've got one
Absolutely.
graduating from college and one that's a sophomore in college, the youngest.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, you being from North Carolina, the Southeast, and there's something special about that state called food.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, something special about that state called desserts. I know
Hmm.
we're not going to talk about the barbecue because I know we have a barbecue war in Texas and South Carolina and Missouri. We get
There's
it.
no war.
There's
There's
no
no
war.
competition. There's no war.
You saying there's no war? So who's
No,
the winner?
because you're comparing apples to oranges. They're
Okay,
not the same.
they're not the
So,
same.
no, North Carolina is barbecue is a noun, and in Texas, barbecue is an adjective.
Okay, all right. So I need to move to North Carolina so I can get more nouns.
Yes, yes, we have a dish called barbecue. And in
Okay.
Texas, it's pork, it's the chopped pork with a vinegar base, and that's all you have. It's a dish. Here in Texas, you have a meat, brisket,
Yes.
typically, that is loaded with barbecue sauce.
Okay. Okay.
So it's
Ladies and
apples
gentlemen,
and oranges. It's
all
apples
my
and oranges.
Texas listeners out there, please stay on the line with me. Just hanging there.
Well, I'm saying that they're equally wonderful
I
because
know they
they're not
are.
the
They
same. They're
are.
not the same.
They absolutely are. They're equally wonderful. And I've been having a chance to hang around Kansas City, Missouri, which they consider that is the barbecue capital of the country. But that's okay. Let's talk about this favorite dessert that you love
Mm.
in North Carolina. What is your favorite dessert?
Well, see, Jeff, I grew up with a mother who can cook.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So, I mean, can cook,
Can really cook.
can cook.
Can really cook.
Yeah. And so I can't say a favorite, but I will say one of my favorites of hers is her German chocolate cake.
German chocolate cake. Now,
Yeah.
are you able to make that German chocolate cake?
I don't want to.
You know,
I don't even try. No.
no, of course.
Certain things you just let the person who can do it best do it.
Yes.
And it's one of those things that it's only done maybe once a year. It's not something that we do often. Now, if I'm not going to say that one, then I will have to go with a nice, warm, ooey gooey chocolate something.
Okay.
And then behind that would be a nice, warm pound cake. See what I'm saying? I can't choose. I like desserts.
But I got the two chocolates in there. You got the two chocolates up front. I heard that. And then the
Mhm.
pound cake being number 3. But it's not about choice. It's just loving food and loving
It is.
dessert.
I do love food. I do love food. However, I am diabetic, so I can't have any of it the way I want to. So it's just a dream. I can think about it often.
What good deal. It's good to hear that. North Carolina is a beautiful state. Has some beautiful beaches as well.
Oh yeah, it's
Yes.
gorgeous state.
Gorgeous,
Mhm.
gorgeous
You
state.
got you got everything in North Carolina. You have the coast, so you got ocean, got water, beaches, you got mountain, and then you've got like flatland that's just beautiful in and of itself in the middle of the state. So we're pretty versatile. No matter what you want, we can give it to you in North
Yeah,
Carolina.
perhaps. Since you got the beach property and you got the very, very diverse geographic area, what's your favorite vacation spot?
Oh,
Is-
a
Okay.
beach, hands down. I enjoy putting my feet in the water, letting the water get probably thigh deep, maybe a little over your knee, and just looking out over the ocean. And quite honestly, saying, if God can do all of this under this water, certainly he can fix any problem I have. That's kind of how that's my rejuvenation period. Every summer we go to a beach, we try to, and that's what I do. I just kind of lay it all out there with the fish and the starfish and all the stuff under the water.
So you do get a chance to relax every now and then, is what I'm hearing.
I try once a year.
Once a year.
I get maybe once a year.
Well, I want you to relax and have some fun on the show. You already definitely you got my audience listening right now because you got into this turf war in regards to barbecue. So
Oh, come on,
they're
guys.
good. They're good.
No bad news. It's apples and oranges. It's apples and oranges.
Well, good deal. Well, it's an honor to have you on my show. What you are
Thank you.
doing, what you continue to do, you are very impressionable. But I want you to share with my audience. Obviously, you're an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
and you've heard me say this before. If you haven't, I'll just say it again. Everything rises and falls on leadership.
It does.
But first, learn to lead ourselves. That's what I
Yes.
introduce my show with. To become the best version of me, the best version of you, we must learn to lead ourselves. Tell
Yes.
the listeners about your leadership journey and how do you get to where you are today?
Well, that's a great question. And the truth is, it is about unpacking. I have, when I speak, I always tell people this. You have to, we come to our businesses with baggage, just like we come to relationships with baggage. And it's important for us to unpack our bag because in it we have negative beliefs, we have limiting beliefs, we have a negative tape playing, we have all the things that people have given us and they've put in our bag based on our experiences and our influence and our perspective. And we really do have to, and I've done this, this is kind of my personal journey, is I had to unpack my bag, Jeff. I had to go through each thing in my bag and if it wasn't something that I put in there myself, I had to give it back to the person that gave it to me. And when I did that, I was able to repack my bag. And I tell people I repacked my bag and it was luxury, honey. Louis Vuitton had nothing on me. Okay. And so when I did that, what that did was it allowed me to create what I call a personal framework that I can apply to everything I do. And that just ensures that whatever it is I'm doing in my business or in my life. We spoke earlier before we came on about life and business. There's no such thing as balance, because balance implies that there's some sort of linear component to our life and our business, and there isn't. Our life and our business happen congruently. So I learned through the unpacking of my bag and repacking of my luxury bag that I had to apply this framework to everything I did to minimize that stress and that overwhelm and that frustration. So that, I think, is sort of how my journey came about. I was, I had to look at who I was. I had to identify what it was that wasn't working, and I had to make a plan to build out what would work.
And so profound. I'm hoping that you captured some of the key things that she said. She said that she unpacked the bags. No matter where you start in life, you're going to bring in some limited belief and different beliefs into a relationship, into a business, or into school. All those things that you have been shared, that's been shared with you while you was growing up, that's coming with you. When you show up at work, it's coming with you. In order to be your authentic self and develop who you are, you got to reflect on those beliefs and then, okay, what's working, what's not working, and unpack that. I love that. And I love that analogy, Andrea. Unpack.
Thank you.
Matter of fact, when you return from a trip, what do?
Unpack. You got to wash clothes. You got to clean stuff up and put it back where it belongs, for sure.
Absolutely. And then you mentioned by unpacking that bag, you start developing your what called personal framework.
Right.
And that framework is your template for the rest of your life, and everything that you do becomes your template. That's what I'm hearing. I'm paraphrasing that correctly.
That's absolutely right. Your personal framework is the way I define it. It is your strengths, your limitations, your desires, and your non-negotiables. And when you unpack your bag, what you find is, like I said, those negative tapes playing in your head, you find out where they came from, right? Mm-hmm. So you will be able to identify what are those triggers. You'll be able to understand sort of what it is that makes you who you are. I always say that we are the sum of our experiences, our influence, our passion, and our perspective. And our influence and our experiences, well, our influence is what shapes our experiences, because we're making decisions about life, about where to go to school, about who to marry, based on influence in our life. And some of those choices may not have been the choices you would have made for yourself had it not been for influence. So when we get down into the personal framework, what we're doing is we're saying, hey, listen, I need to understand what my strengths are. I need to understand what my limitations are. I need to understand where those things are coming from. Like, what is it that is not me? And how can I then apply that now? I call it circumstances for optimal success. That's what I call it. When you have identified your personal framework, now you know what your strengths are, you know what your limitations are, you know what your desires are, and you can sort of define what are those triggers. What is this? Why am I limited? Why is this causing me a trouble? Why is this now? Why is the bottleneck here? Why do I continue to react this way? Well, it's because you had an influence, right? That caused that negative behavior, but we got rid of that, right? So I don't have to act that way anymore. I don't have to have that reaction anymore. So you can get rid of that trigger. But also the personal framework allows you to say, hey, this is something that I won't tolerate. I had to deal with this when I was younger. This was something that was in my bag. I do not want it in my bag any longer. I have removed it. I will not operate in this, because it's something that I've decided is one of my non-negotiables. So doing this, you can now create, when you go on a job, when you deal with people, when you're building relationships with a potential spouse, you can set yourself up with circumstances that allow you to do and be your best, regardless of the situation. And then when you do that, it doesn't matter if you fail at it, right? That's why you're failing forward, because you've done your best. You were your best. And if that was not enough to be successful, you can leave that situation with your head high, still saying, hey, I gave it my all. I
Mhm.
applied my personal framework to it. I set myself up for success. It didn't work out. It wasn't meant for me. Your mindset can change.
Mhm.
See what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to
Mhm.
continue to have this defeatist attitude when things don't work out. Typically, it's because you didn't give it your all. And you typically didn't give it your all because you didn't know what your all could possibly be because you hadn't created your personal framework.
You just wrote about 3 or 4 chapters there, Andrea. You did. You really did. I'm capturing some of these key components. One, you said circumstances for optimal success, and it goes back to that framework that you
Hmm.
created by unpacking your bags and what's working, what's not working,
Hmm.
limited belief, and all of those. You mentioned influence. I loved when you said that because everything rises and falls on leadership. You heard me say that, and leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Those influences, once you unpack your bag, oh no, this influence was not appropriate for me. I
There
need
you
to give
go.
this back to this person, and no, I'm not going to be a victim of that influence.
There you go.
So,
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely. I'm gonna give you an example because I know sometimes it's difficult for people to grasp the concept of circumstances for optimal success. So, years ago, when I was doing fashion styling, I was approached by a photographer that I worked with over Facebook, and he said, "Hey, there's this client of mine who needs a wardrobe, a fashion stylist. I think you should, let them know that you're available." And it was just over Facebook. So I said, okay, So I reached out and said, yes, this is something that I can do. Long story short, it ended up being the Gaylord Hotels was the client. I'm not talking about just our Gaylord Hotel here in Texas. I'm
mhm,
talking about the Marriott division of the Gaylord Hotels.
okay.
So they needed me to style a marketing photo shoot. I had to style over 20 people. I had never styled that many people before. I had to pull clothes from retailers. I had never done that before. I pulled $4,000 worth of clothes on my credit card, Jeff. I get there. I set myself up. Before I got there, I had called I had emailed all of the models. I said, I need you to bring this. I need you to do this. What I knew I needed to do my best on this job. I set myself up. I knew that I needed to have a ton of options. I wanted them to bring certain items so I wouldn't have to. When I got there, I commanded the room. I made sure that the models were where they were supposed to be. I got myself an assistant so that I wouldn't have to, rip and run.
Mhm.
In the day of this photo shoot, the marketing director came to me and she said, "We have never had someone bring this many clothes. Typically, they ask the models to just bring things." She said, "I have never had anyone command the room the way you commanded the room so that I could then go and be on set with the photographer and the videographer. I felt like you were doing a great job handling it." So much so that the director of marketing's boss, I don't even know what his title was, but he came to the room and said, "We want you to do the same thing for our Nashville hotel." So I went from someone who had never done this before to someone who was being asked to do it again, not by one person, but by the division, right, of a Marriott hotel. And that all happened because I set myself up with circumstances for optimal success. I knew what I needed because I had done the work. I knew what I needed, that personal framework, what my strengths were. I optimized those. I knew what my weaknesses were, my limitations. So I brought somebody in to help with that. And I knew what my desire was. My desire was to do a great job. And in the end, my non negotiable was that I was just not willing to compromise who I was on the job just to do anything, right? But in the end, I applied that to this situation and I created what I needed to do my best and be my best within this situation. Now it worked out. It was a positive outcome. They wanted me to come back. So, what I'm saying is to those listening today, creating your circumstances for optimal success is not just about knowing what needs to be done on a job. You might know your skill, right? You might know how to do what it is you do. but setting yourself up in a way that you are consistently doing that. You are consistently doing and being your best and showing up as your best every single time. You need to know what that best is. You need to repack your bag and show up with this new luxury handbag or briefcase or whatever the case may be every single time. So that's why creating that personal framework is so important, because that's how you set up your circumstances for optimal success.
I just picked up about 3 or 4 different chapters in the book. I'll let you know that, because you mentioned all comes out of that personal framework.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned, while you were talking, one of the 7 habits of highly effective people just surfaced in my mind is this: begin with the end in mind.
Absolutely. Always. Always begin with the end in mind. I always tell my clients that also you have to start with the end in mind. Where is it that you are trying to go?
Mm-hmm.
And then you reverse engineer.
And reverse
so
engineer,
that you get back to the beginning.
which is first things first.
First things first.
Yeah. And
that's unpacking your bag. You got to unpack your bag.
Yeah.
You got to unpack your bag.
Having that vision, don't compromise your values, regardless of what. Don't compromise who you are, because that's your personal framework.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have those, the foundational principles, the foundational values,
mm-hmm.
and you know what the end looks like,
mm-hmm.
then you really giving yourself the authority to command the room.
Absolutely. And you will command the room. That's the thing, is that I think we look so much to this idea of expertise that society has placed on people. And I run into so many people who are afraid to do certain things. Like, for instance, they're afraid to speak. They're afraid to be on video. The speaking thing is they're afraid that what if someone raises their hands and they ask me a question and I don't know the answer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I don't have that fear, because the idea of my perspective, there are so many people who do marketing, who do leadership, who do executive coaching, process management, some of the things that I do, but nobody does it the way I do it. No one has the perspective of it that I do. And my perspective, like I always say, that your personal framework is a fingerprint, because no one has the exact same experience as you. No one has the exact same influence as you. No one has the exact same passion you have, and no one has the exact same perspective you have on a situation. So when you get up to speak, or you come up against someone who's doing the exact same thing you're doing, there's no competition. You can't compete with yourself, because they are coming to this process with their personal framework, with their fingerprint. So I think we have to get off of this idea that we have to be this expert, and we have to come approach the situation the way other people approach the situation. Unpacking that bag and creating that personal framework and those circumstances for optimal success are how you show up, command the room every single time, because you're showing up as yourself.
Listen, Andrea, you helped a lot of coaches and trainers that have this competitive versus collaborative mindset, because you're not competing against another coach, another trainer, another speaker. It's about being who you are and being authentic to you.
Yes.
And then your audience will definitely would feed off your authenticity.
Right.
And absolutely what you're saying.
People they don't know what authenticity is. This is a battle that I've been fighting for so long, because in full transparency, when I was really getting into, I called it personal branding. I have been calling it personal branding, but even before that, I was calling it your signature style, because I've always known what I was saying, like the approach I was bringing to these terms, and it's never been what society has thought of as the term, right? And so what I had to come to a point where I realized, you are saying something that is important, because people do not know how to be authentic. People think that authenticity is showing up the way they think people want them to show up. And that's not authenticity. Authenticity is showing up as yourself. It is showing up true to your beliefs, to your values, to your perspective. And so when you do that, there's no competition.
There is
There
no
just
competition.
isn't any. And we can all work together because, so think about this. You're coaching someone, right? If you're a coach and you're watching this and you are struggling with the competitive demon, think about this. You are you have an epiphany. There was a moment when you started your business. I call it your epiphany moment. This epiphany you had. This is why I need to start this business. Well, your journey to fulfill that idea, to bring it to fruition, is your own. Nobody else took it. However, if you were to break it down into steps that you took to get to where you are, right? And now you are solving this problem for someone else. You're coaching someone else on this problem. How can you compare yourself to someone else? Because your journey to the solution was your journey. And when you approach someone to coach them, you are approaching them from, like, let's say step 3 of the journey was X, and you meet someone and they're at step X. You're going to relate to them based on how you felt and how you were at step
Mhm.
X, right? So there's no competition. And there will be people that resonate with your solution and your solution and stuff at step X. But then there'll be people who resonate with someone else's solution. It doesn't mean that your solution was wrong. It just means that they resonated with someone else's solution better than they did yours.
I tell you what, there's a lady that mentors us under the Maxwell Leadership called Valerie Burton. You, your story and what you're stating is what she talks about, and you showing up and be you. There's no competition, none
None.
whatsoever. The only competition lies within, and you need to increase your skills and become better. But be real, because your client can determine whether you're real and being authentic or not.
Yes.
And absolutely, I tell you what, you have unpacked a lot of great information. You definitely helping me unpack, as we say, unpack my
You
bag.
unpacking your bag.
Well, I want to ask the question now. You've been in business for quite some time. You've done some amazing things, but to get to where you are, we never on a journey by ourselves. No one is ever on a journey by themselves.
Mm-mm.
Talk about some of your mentors and how those mentors help you unpack your bag, and how do those mentors influence to where you are today?
Well, I'll have to say that my husband has been a true influence because he is a very intelligent human being, but he's also one that is a leader himself. And I've watched him in his corporate career and how he's navigated his career. And he has always found, he calls them not mentors, does he call them mentors? But he finds these connections, these partnerships with people. And he has been able to go, if he was ever laid off from a job, when the economy wasn't that great, he was able to go from like Friday, he was laid off, to Monday, he had a job. But it was because he knows how to foster relationships, he knows how to build bridges, he knows how to keep the bridges up, right? And he's excellent at what he does. And so looking at him, I try my best to emulate that. I try to be my best, like we talked about. I try to develop relationships and lasting relationships that also become uh I don't know, I don't want to say profitable, but people, when you meet people and you build relationships, they become partners, and they collaborate with you, and in that collaboration there's growth. But it's because you develop their relationship, and you foster that relationship, and he showed me how to do that. um so there, he would be the biggest one, and then just also a lot of ministers. We had, Pastor Smith of North Dallas. He was amazing. He was from corporate, but the way he spoke
Mhm.
and the depth that he gave us from his sermons, you could tell required a lot of research and clarity and understanding. And so when I speak, I want to come from a place like that. So I would say those two would probably
Mhm.
be some of the biggest ones.
Absolutely. key takeaways from what you just said, summary, is that you're building those relationships, building bridges, not walls. And those relationships is whether you talk to a person 5 years and you have been talking to the person 10 to 15 years, they remember how you made them feel. They may not remember what you talked about, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And
That
that's
is the
important.
prayer.
And
Yes,
that
yes.
is a bridge. Because even as a child, you all of a sudden can be an adult and 40 and 50 years old, and that person that was in your life when you were 5 to 6 years of age, you still remember how they made you feel.
Absolutely.
That's why a lot of students always go back and thank their teachers.
That's
A
true.
lot of successful folks, no matter their 40s and their 50s and their 60s, they remember that teacher, that second grade teacher, that relationship. And that's what success is about.
For
Significance is
sure.
about. It's about relationships. And those relationships become bridges for the rest of your life. And they become models because they foster a relationship. And your husband is a model of foster. I like what you said. On Friday he could be laid off, and Monday he's back to work on a different
Mhm.
organization
That
because
has happened. That has happened twice. And they love him. Nobody ever wants to let him go. It's
Mhm,
always been, because the company just had to do it, but he
mhm.
has always had that ability, and I've always admired that about him. He has people calling him today. Like I mean, I don't know that a day goes by that he doesn't have someone from his former company, or, some it's that have, reaching out to him about coming to, come over here with us, so he does a really good job with that.
Well, absolutely. You mentioned being authentic, but the key word in your bio and what you do is personal branding. Okay, now, how do you help my audience out there something special about what you do and help them define their personal brand, which is basically your niche? How do you do that? Give me some tips. And this, I know it's coming out in the book. It's probably already in a book, but help folks understand the importance, especially in marketing and defining who you are and working on your why, your value system. And you talked about it earlier. You've already touched on it, but I want you to give some concrete responses to how do you help people define their personal brand.
Well, initially, it's a whole process that I have when I'm coaching people. My approach is, like I said, we talked about personal branding, but the way I define personal branding is you really identifying who you are and then leveraging that across every area of your life. I truly believe in harmony between your personal life and your business life. We spoke about the congruency that's
Mhm.
there, it's not a linear thing. And so, in order for that to happen, we have to identify who we are and what we need to do and be our best. And that then becomes what we leverage, whether it's a career we're building, whether it's a family we're building, whether it's a friendship we're building, whether it's a business we're building.
Mhm.
That is what we do. And once we've created that framework and we've identified those circumstances for optimal success, the next step is to really shape out the characteristics of who it is you want to show up as. That's your personal brand. Who is this person, and how now can we take this framework, this circumstance for optimal success, and apply it everywhere? It is the litmus test for being who you are in every situation. So, what I help my clients do is to tap into that. And then I used to say, I told you, like, personal branding for me has never been the definition that other people use. Because when other people hear personal branding, what they're hearing is a vanity URL like andreapatrick.com, or they are looking at the images on their website. They're thinking about um, just the picture of themselves, the visual of themselves. But when I'm talking about personal framework, I'm talking about the inside, who you are essentially, and how you can apply this to every situation. People they pick up money that they shouldn't pick up, right? Because they're not being authentic. So what happens is they get into situations, they've taken this money, and they have to earn every penny. Dr. Phil said, when you marry for money, you earn every penny. When you work and pick up clients just because of the money, you're never going to feel like they paid you enough because you didn't apply your personal framework. So now you're in a situation where no
Mhm.
matter how good you are, no matter what your best is, these people just were not the right client, but you've gotten yourself into it because you wanted money. Personal framework helps you make better decisions. So as I grew with this idea of personal branding, what has come of it is people are not using it when I'm coaching them to help them with their marketing, right? That's what I was initially thinking they would do. What I'm finding is people are saving tens of thousands. In my bio, it's tens of thousands, not thousands, but people have paid they've saved tens of thousands of dollars based on me helping them be more discerning, make better decisions, because now they're applying their personal framework. I've helped people make millions of dollars because they listened and used their personal framework to make the decisions in their favor to make that money. So now what I'm doing is I'm applying this idea of personal branding to more of executive coaching and personal and process management, so that people begin to have better success with leveraging their personal brand. And then, of course, yes, marketing does play a role if that's how they choose to apply it. But what I learned was it's not just for marketing. When you develop a personal brand, it affects every area of your life.
Every area of your life. I'm going to put your website on the screen. And folks, I want you to reach out to Andrea because she said she can save you tens of thousands and help you make millions. And so I have her email address. I have her website.
You got my personal text,
Text
phone number.
everything. So I want you that's watching this show, I want you to reach out to Andrea and entrepreneurs, business leaders, executives, all the folks that's listening to this show today. She's going to help you save thousand. You're going to save money, not only money, but you are going to save a tremendous amount of time. And
Yes.
that's the key. Most people don't put those dollar values on the time that they're wasting, but those are dollar values associated with the amount of time that you are working out of your lane.
For
You're
sure.
developing a process that's not in your personal framework.
Mm.
And Andrea is the coach to help you bring you back into to get you centered on your framework. So reach out to Andrea. She did say not just thousand, but tens of thousand. And she didn't say 100,000. She said she can help you make, I think I heard millions. I want to make
Millions.
sure I got that right. I want to make sure I got that right. But that's the focus of what she is doing. Now, Andrea, I'm going to allow that to continue to stroll, but you keep mentioning the word, you mentioned the word executives, and I mentioned the word several times about leadership. That's
Mhm.
significantly important. Talk to me and talk to my audience the importance of leadership development, growth and development, and the significance of continual growth and development. Why is that so important in being an
You know
entrepreneur?
what? Because we have to evolve. That's why the name of my podcast is the CEO Mindset, because it means to constantly evolve and be open to failing forward. Because if we are not growing, that means for stagnant, that means for staying still. And we can't do that as leaders, because as leaders, our role, our job is to bring people along with us, not just manage them, not just make sure they stay on task, but our job is to lead them to different pastures, show them a different way. And if we don't continue to grow ourselves, how can we lead people to new things? How can we show them new opportunities? How can we allow them or help them to change their mindset, their mindset, if we don't do the same for ourselves? And so that's why it's so important as leaders for us to always grow, always evolve. We used to talk years ago. I think that the key phrase was pivot. We need to pivot.
Mhm.
Well, pivoting means that you're making adjustments and like maybe even doing something completely different. But when you are looking at evolving, what that means is you are changing not necessarily what you're doing, but you are growing in what you're doing. So you're changing where you are. You're better, you're being better. You're filling your cup more, because like you said before, we can't give it if we don't have it.
Mhm.
So that's what, as leaders, that's why we need to continue to build and grow and evolve.
Well, based on everything that you've said, now, my audience, you know why I have her on the show. Based on that response to that question, you know why I have her on the show. You know, I always got to follow up and paraphrase, but in order to, you can't go to the top, you have to grow to the top.
Amen. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
And if you're growing to the top, because people see you growing and they start growing right behind you. Because people don't do what you say, they do what you do. You have to
Yes,
model that
yes.
growth environment, that growth culture. Hope I'm paraphrasing that correctly.
That's great. That's great. But I also want to add this because this is something that I think is not talked about in that growing to the top. That is the feeling of failure sometimes, the feeling of missed opportunity, or the feeling of, just not being good enough. Because what happens, I think, when we grow, because I'm going through a season of it myself. I called it my September reset. I said,
Okay.
your reset is the new work-life balance. Because when we get to a point in our life, in our businesses, and we start to feel the stressors and the frustrations become a little bit more, I
Mhm.
think that is a telltale sign that you are starting a growth season. And in that comes feelings of, oh my gosh, I've been doing this forever and I'm never going to get where I want to be. Or, oh my gosh, how can I make this happen? I don't have what I need. You know, I think that is an opportunity for us to reset, right? Instead of allowing the frustrations to take hold, let's acknowledge that we're at the beginning of a reset, right? Then let's assess what needs to happen, what needs to change. If you feel like there's a bottleneck, if you feel like there is something that, like, you need to do something different to get a different result,
Mhm.
what is it? Let's identify that. Let's assess the situation, and then we need to identify the need. Like, what do we need to do once we've assessed it? What needs to happen? And then we need to take action, right? We need to do the thing, right? If that means you're doing too much, you have to. If it's time to scale back, if it's time to streamline, you've been trying everything everybody told you to do, but it's
Mhm.
not working, or it's overload. It's not you. It's not authentic, right?
Mhm.
Then do we need to scale back? If we do, let's stop. If we need to add more, then let's do that. And then we need to analyze. We need to look at, okay, I made the change. I was here, and now I'm here. Am I feeling better? Am I feeling worse? Do I need to do something different?
Is it working?
Is it working?
Mhm.
Right. And then you rinse, wash, and repeat. But that reset, I believe, is important because there is no such thing as work-life balance. This 50-50 idea of us trying to grow our businesses or do our career and have a family. I used to tell people too when I was speaking, I was like, I am not every woman. I'm not the chick that's gonna go to work all day and then come home and cook. That's not me. you know? And so I have identified that these things have to run together, but occasionally this reset happens. And so as we're growing to the top, we have to acknowledge that part of it as well, because it's not all gravy. When you go up, yeah, it's great. We love making money, doing better, growing our businesses. But there are times when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel the stress, when we feel the frustration, when the limiting beliefs start to creep back in. Even if you have the personal framework, even if
Mhm.
you've done the work, that stuff is still there, right? It's still there. You just have chosen that it's not going to affect you, but it still creeps up. Like my pastor used to say, the old man is in there. He's still in there. Every once in a while, he rises. So you have to acknowledge that and give
Mhm.
yourself a little bit of grace and breathe through it, um, even as you're growing to the top.
Okay. Reflect to reset.
Mm-hmm.
Reset to reflect
Mm-hmm.
and see where you are and sharpen the saw if need be.
Mm-hmm.
Look at your calendar. You probably got it filled up. Maybe put some white space on your calendar, because if you go
Absolutely.
back and look at all those, what value was gained out of this appointment? What value was gained out of this event? Are you saying yes just to be polite and say yes? Because sometimes no could be the optimum answer.
Hey, listen, personal framework, you learn no is the complete sentence with a period behind it. I tell you, no is a complete sentence. It's okay to have it. You don't need any other punctuation. A period will do.
Period will do. A period will do. This has been absolutely amazing, Andrea. I'm glad, audience. I'm hoping that you took some copious notes. I didn't challenge you at the beginning to take notes, but I'm challenging you now. Matter of fact, you don't have to take any notes. You go back and replay.
There
hit
you go.
replay.
I
There
love
we
it.
go. Hit reset.
That's right.
And
Absolutely.
let me share your YouTube channel as well. I put it on the screen because, guys, this is our YouTube channel. Please take these notes. Take a screenshot of this if need be, but go back and replay this. She have shared some amazing information that's going to help us grow. She is helping me. She's helping us unpack. She helping Jeff Willie unpack. If I can grow, we all can grow. Growing is a modern behavior. Growing is a life journey. It's not a sprint. It's an everyday. Become a lifelong learner. Live to lead, live to learn to live, and making
Absolutely.
growth and be intentional about your growth. Andrea, thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
these nuggets with us today. This has been absolutely amazing. And I am so honored to have you part of my show. This has
Thank
been
you so much. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for
well,
having me.
absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, you know, we come live, as we say. I think there was a TV show called Live and Live in Color.
There you
We
go.
come live and live in color every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Join me on Facebook. Join me on LinkedIn. Join me on YouTube. Just join me. Just join us because we
Join
have,
Jeff. Join him.
yes, please, because Win with Willie Leadership Talk Show is all about bringing guests in and encouraging us to fight on, to lead on, to serve on, to reach our best God-given potential. God has given us some phenomenal gifts,
Yes.
and we want to grow into those gifts. We want to, how we're going to go up? We are going to grow up because
Grow
the
up.
best gift we can give our family and our community is the best version of ourselves. So remember, 2022, the year of no excuses. You and I must inspire until we expire.